Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for taking time out of your Wednesday evening to join us. For those of you who don't know, my name is David Heithaus. I am the Director of Green Initiatives at Kenyon. And before we do anything else, I just want to give a huge thanks to Kim Wallace and the Office of Alumni and Parent Engagement. They were really the ones who pitched this idea and made this evening possible. So thanks to Kim in the Office of Alumni and Parent Engagement. So amongst ambiguous titles, Director of Green Initiatives is probably right up there for you. So what it essentially that means is that I have the good fortune of working with the wonderful panelists that we will have presenting tonight, who are responsible for the care and maintenance of what we think of as Kenyon's green centers, the Brown Family Environmental Center, the Philander Chase Conservancy, the Kokosing Nature Preserve, and the Kenyon Farm. So the one thing I want you to keep in the back of your mind for all of this, as Lisa, Noel, Amy, and Ryan talk about the good work they're doing, is that these are all academic resources. These aren't just people doing good work in their specific fields, but these are all things that Kenyon can lean on to enhance the experiences of our students. And as we get into sort of the final legs of our college strategic plan, I'm really encouraged that one of the themes that's arising is not just sustainability, but curricular engagement with those different facets of sustainability that these offices represent. With President Decatur's announcement yesterday, I should probably speak to the elephant in the room. It is indeed an exciting time for Kenyon. We're in the midst of wrapping up the West Quad project. We have a immensely generous gift that is going to contribute towards something that I think anybody here who is an alum will appreciate, which is the need for maybe slightly nicer housing opportunities at Kenyon. I mean, the 9-story basement that is Caples, as lovely as it is due for an upgrade. And I think we're all really excited about not just the opportunity that the gift presents, but the way that the college is going to try to do that in as environmentally friendly way as possible. So before I turn it over to the presenters, and I know we have a pretty robust program tonight, we will have a Q&A at the end of the hour. I would encourage you to enter your questions into the chat bar as they occur. And then after everybody's had a chance to present, I will do my best to get through those as quickly as possible. You can ask questions about campus sustainability, but I think probably after you hear from Lisa, Amy, Noel, and Ryan, there'll be a lot more questions about the work at the different green centers. We will be saving the chat files, so anything that we're not able to get to tonight, we will do our absolute best to respond to in a timely fashion in the days ahead. Without listening to me ramble on anymore, Lisa, I'd like to turn it over to you for some of our panel introductions.
Thanks, Dave. Well, good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure to be with you, at least virtually. We do miss seeing you all. My name is Lisa Schott, and I am the Managing Director of the Philander Chase Conservancy. I'm a Kenyon graduate and have the good fortune of knowing many of you from my 25 years in the alumni office. But I had the good fortune to be asked back in 2010 to manage the Conservancy.
Hello, my name is Amy Henriksen. I have the pleasure of working with Lisa and the Philander Chase Conservancy on projects related to land conservation. But my primary project focus is the Kokosing Nature Preserve, which I am excited to talk to you a little bit about this evening. I have worked at Kenyon since 2004, working first in the Office of Annual Giving for 9 years, and I've been with the Conservancy for the last 7 years.
Hi, everyone. I'm Noel Jordan. I am the manager of the Brown Family Environmental Center, and I have been here since 2016.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Hoddle, and I am the director of the Kenyon Farm. We'll go into more detail about that, but I've been here since 2016, coming from OSU, where I did a background in soil science and have the great privilege and pleasure of running the Kenyon Farm. Thank you.
So shall I take it away then, Dave? Okay, well, I think it's a fair bet to say that tonight anyone participating is likely to share a love for the beauty of the rural landscape that surrounds Kenyon College. I think it's such a part of our experience. And I think you would all agree that it is no surprise that the college appears regularly on the list of the most beautiful campuses in the country. And in fact, just in the last week appeared on another list. But what I'm going to ask you to do tonight is to imagine, first of all, what this area would have looked like back when the college was founded in 1824. This mural, and I think some of you will remember it from the Gambier Post Office, depicts a scene of Kenyon's founder, Bishop Philander Chase, and our namesake for the Conservancy, choosing this location for his college on Kenyon Hill. He originally purchased 8,000 acres in the county, but over time, for financial reasons, the college had to sell off all but 1,000 of those acres. But what I want you to do now is imagine you're driving from Mount Vernon to Kenyon, and some of you know it as the Bishop's Backbone, but as you're coming up the top of the hill, looking down into that beautiful valley, instead of seeing a beautiful farm, the Kokosing River, instead you are looking at subdivisions, retail stores, barely can see the Kokosing River. And I think anybody who has driven from the airport to the college, and even the last 5 years, could tell you that the landscape coming to the college from the airport is drastically different. Much of that farmland has disappeared. And I think we love this bulletin cover back from 1998, Hello Columbus. I think that is, I know it's extreme, but I think it's a great image of when we think about what we're trying to do in our work. That's a good image. So when I first returned to work at Kenyon in the mid-'80s, a landowner had begun to develop his property right at the base of the Kenyon Hill across the Kokosing River. That was Kenyon's first really serious wake-up call that they really could no longer take this beautiful rural environment for granted. So what I will always be grateful for is the college's response to that. The Kenyon Board of Trustees did a study and I think very wisely decided to create its own land trust, the Philander Chase Conservancy, back in 2000, with a mission to protect the natural beauty of the farms, woodlands, waters, and open spaces surrounding Kenyon, and to preserve the rural nature of the region at large. Kenyon is still the only college or university in the country to have started its own land trust. And I think that's wonderful. But as you can imagine, conserving land requires relationships with local landowners and farmers, a lot of advocacy, and then daily management of those properties and all those negotiations that are going on. So we have a board of directors since we're a nonprofit, Kenyon is our sole member, but we have our own board of directors that is composed mainly of Kenyon alumni, Kenyon parents, and then we do have a community member on as well. While the college funds the overhead and the salaries, the Conservancy relies though on private donations to fund all other expenses, and that would include the cost to purchase conservation easements, and on the rare occasion, if necessary, we will purchase the property in fee. But obviously that's more expensive, so we only do that when it's absolutely critical. We also have to raise money too to defend these easements because they are in perpetuity, so literally forever. So we have to make sure that the terms of those easements are not violated. So as you would imagine, development pressure continues to increase. And certainly in the last 20 years since P. Chase's founding, that pressure has increased really significantly. I took this photo, it was about 1.5 years ago, I stopped because it really captured for me. It is about a 400-acre farm that was developed in this past year into one of the big dollar store warehouses, or I think many of you have seen the Amazon warehouses. So while it's over a half hour, that still isn't very far. And what we know is Columbus is the fastest growing city in the Midwest. It's expected to grow by up to 1 million people. And guess where those people are coming? That population pressure is pushing our way. Knox County alone, they predict, will grow by another city the size of Mount Vernon, which is between 16 and 17,000 people. And farmland, and you know this area is very rural and beautiful, farmland is being developed at a very rapid rate. Ohio, one of the top states in the country being developed. And since 1982, Ohio has lost over 1 million acres of prime agricultural farmland. So that kind of gets depressing, but there is really good news to report, and that's what we're happy to bring you tonight. And that is that thanks to the work of our staff, to our wonderful board of directors, and our many local partners, the Conservancy has been able to conserve almost 6,000 acres in perpetuity within a 5-mile radius of the college. That includes 45 farms and properties, and we also currently own 8 properties in fee. We are currently working on 4 new conservation easements, so the work is of course ongoing. But I thought to kind of personalize this for you, I wanted to share a story about a family I have had the honor and privilege of working with. That's the Lehman family. And I first started working with the Lehman family back about 10 years ago when I first started, and was working with Jane Lehman and her husband, Tony. And over time, we were able to conserve their farmland that is right across from the Kenyon athletic fields. We next worked with Jane's son, Jay, and his wife, Christie. And Jay and Chrissy are pictured here at their family farm. And by working with us, they were able to use the money from their easement to help restore what was a family, the farmhouse was a family farmhouse, but it had fallen into disrepair before they purchased it. And it is now an absolutely gorgeous farmhouse. And also just to purchase the farm. But I think, and Ryan will talk later, we're really pleased that Chrissy, who is a Kenyon alumna from the class of 2001, not only has been involved with us in terms of conserving their farm, but also hosts students from Kenyon's Sustainable Agriculture course. And we'll hear more about that in a bit. Also pictured here is John Woolham, who is Kenyon's class of 1961, and his wife Cindy. They funded that conservation easement, and together the Woolhams have funded a number of Philander Chase Conservancy's easements. And one thing I love is, as this picture depicts, they really enjoy meeting the people involved. So that's one of their pleasures when they come back, and to see very personally the properties they are protecting. And then finally, we worked with Jay's brother, Josh. And the picture here is Josh on one of their 2 farms, holding his son. And I always kind of get choked up looking at this because it just shows to me he's got his son, who I know they're hoping one of their 4 children will someday manage these farms. But in total, the Lehman family conserved with us 460 acres, very close to campus. So that's one of my favorite stories. Second story I want to tell briefly was about Walker's Pond. And many alumni will remember Walker's Pond. And thanks again to John Woolham, the Conservancy was able to purchase the property. And we did this and this is where partnerships are fun, we purchased this property for the Brown Family Environmental Center, and purchased that from Kenyon alumnus Hal Walker, who's Kenyon class of 57, and his wife Carol. But what we love is that part of that center's 9-mile trail system now includes a trail from the campus that goes to Walker's Pond and is open to anyone, to the community at large, every day of the year. Then the last thing I want to talk about is how pleased we are, and Dave started talking about this, that the importance of land conservation is also becoming integrated into the daily life of the college. We have spoken now on several occasions to classes about land conservation. I was able to bring a class out to one of the farms that we were monitoring. But the other thing that we're doing, thanks to the Philander Chase Conservancy Board of Directors, is they funded several student internships, so that students will work with us as a position. And then they get direct experience working, seeing all aspects of what's involved with land conservation, and also with Kokosing Nature Preserve. So pictured here is one of our current interns who's on the call with us, Michaela Lancy. And this is a photo of her assisting us this fall with our annual monitoring of our conserved properties. We have to go to every property every year to make sure they are in compliance with the terms of those easements. But what's been fun for us to watch is with the interns we've now worked with in just over a few years, we watched some of those interns go and get direct jobs. I mean, I think it's great career experience for them that they can then translate into when they go for an interview and are talking with potential employers. This is a great thing to be able to talk about, especially if they're going into environmental work. So we're excited about that. And one of our other interns was able to secure a summer internship in San Francisco. And she said it was directly because of her internship. So we are really proud of all the Conservancy has accomplished, but there is a lot of work still to do in order to fully fulfill our mission and ensure that the area continues to look like this beautiful image that was captured by Brad Remick in the class of '84. It's our goal to conserve at least 8,000 acres in order to really feel like we have preserved the rural character of our area. So if you are interested in land conservation and wish to learn more, I would encourage you to check out our website, philanderchase.org. Look for us on social media, Facebook, we're everywhere, and consider attending a Conservancy event in the future. We want to express our gratitude to the easement holders who are on the call tonight, to our board of directors, and to our many community partners, and everyone who has been so generous with supporting us in our work. You've made it possible to conserve these farms and a healthy Kokosing River and the beautiful green spaces that mean so much to us. I think anybody who's been involved will tell you that one of the most meaningful things is you don't very often get to say that you did something that should last forever. And these easements, as far as legally something can last forever, they are in perpetuity. And I think that's a very special feeling, thanks to the power of those conservation easements. So appreciate the chance to talk to you about this. And it is now my great pleasure to turn it over to my colleague, Amy, to talk about Kokosing Nature Preserve.
Thank you, Lisa. A major piece of the Philander Chase Conservancy's lasting legacy that Lisa referenced is its creation of Kokosing Nature Preserve, which is a green burial cemetery or conservation burial ground located on Quarry Chapel Road. And I'm excited to be able to talk to you tonight and share information about the Nature Preserve and the work that we're doing there. Many of you would actually remember this site as the location of the former Tomahawk Golf Course. The golf course was for sale by its previous owners for upwards of 2 years. The previous owners were no longer able to continue the golf operations, and they were also unable to find a buyer who was interested in continuing golf on that location as well. So fortunately, the Conservancy was able to purchase the property in August of 2013 in the interest of first and foremost protecting 51 acres of green space for the benefit of our local community. This is now a lovely public space with mowed walking paths for all to come and enjoy. But we have also created a beautiful nature preserve, which provides an option for natural or green burial right here in Central Ohio. And we dedicated the space as a green cemetery in October of 2015. I do want to note at this point that Kokosing Nature Preserve was designed by landscape architect Stephen Christie, who some of you may know. He is a graduate of Kenyon College with the class of 1971. And then also wanted to note that the stone pillars that are located within the preserve and the base, the stone base of our entrance sign, were built by stonemason David Kreidler, who's also a Kenyon alumnus and a member of the class of 1975. Just as many of us are looking to be more environmentally conscious in our daily life choices, so too do many people want to minimize their impact on our environment after they die. While there are various reasons that people choose green burial, many are interested in having their final environmental footprint be as small as possible. According to the most recent 2019 survey from the National Funeral Directors Association, only 5% of today's burials are actually green burials currently, but 72% of cemeteries are reporting an increased demand for the practice of green burial. And almost 54% of Americans surveyed said that they would consider green burial options. So we are glad to be able to provide that option right here in Gambier. So what is green burial? When we talk about green burial, we are essentially talking about a return to an old-fashioned dust-to-dust approach to burial, which really was the standard practice prior to the Civil War. We do not allow embalming or concrete vaults at the nature preserve. Burial containers have to be biodegradable. So that means for caskets, untreated lumber, wicker, seagrass, or cardboard, for example. And we also allow shrouds made of natural material, cotton, linen, wool. Graves can be marked. They don't have to be, but they can be marked by a natural, flat, unpolished engraved stone, no more than 3 inches above ground. And these burials all take place in a beautiful natural setting. We have had many families tell us that this setting and the idea of returning their loved one to nature, and ultimately the ability to come back and visit the preserve, which really feels very full of life, has been actually a very important part of their healing process. So I will just try to share with you a few quick facts about the nature preserve. We are currently certified by the Green Burial Council at their highest level of certification as one of only 8 conservation burial grounds nationally. And that means that we have a plan not only for conducting the burials and how we do that, we have a plan for how we are restoring the land in which the cemetery exists. The Green Burial Council, basically, we consider to be sort of our good housekeeping stamp of approval. So that's an important certification for us. We have approximately 2,300 plots located throughout the preserve. We have to date sold interment rights for 64 of those burial lots. And we have had 25 interment services and 2 scatterings to date. The majority of the plots are located in the tall grasses and the wildflowers that you see here. We also have some plots located in the existing established woods. And we have a designated area of the preserve where, if a family is interested, they can plant a memorial tree, either before or after an interment service. And that would just have to be a native hardwood species of tree. And as you can see from these pictures, it is not at all obvious that this is a burial ground or a cemetery. It is by design intended to be in total harmony with the natural setting in which the cemetery exists. As I mentioned previously, we have had some scatterings as well. So we do accept cremated remains. People who opt to be cremated may be buried within a specified burial lot in a biodegradable urn, or they may choose to have their ashes scattered at the preserve. And we do work with all the families to facilitate a service that is personalized, that is meaningful to them, and is what they are envisioning. Families and friends can participate in those services in whatever manner they feel comfortable and, again, is meaningful to them. I also want to point out that we, thanks to the generosity of a Kenyon alumna and Philander Chase Conservancy board member, the former Tomahawk Clubhouse has been renovated, and we are able to offer this space for rental to families who are having services in connection with the Nature Preserve Cemetery. Those of you who may have visited this clubhouse back when it was Tomahawk Golf Course will definitely notice that there has been a significant improvement in its appearance. And we do also rent this space to the Kenyon community and to our local community as well for events. We have had a wedding reception, 50th anniversary party, business meetings, and we are finding that having an event in such a beautiful natural space is definitely a draw for folks. So finally, I'll end by emphasizing that we are extremely proud of this unique project, conserving land and restoring it to its natural setting. Kokosing Nature Preserve is a wonderful example of a creative way to use conserved land that has benefits for our local community. We're providing green space for all to enjoy, and also introducing the environmentally respectful option of green burial here in Central Ohio. Definitely encourage you to visit if you have not already. The next time you're in Gambier, we are open dawn to dusk every day of the year in all seasons. And it truly is beautiful in all seasons of the year. But if you're interested in seeing the prairie at its peak, mid-July to early August would definitely be the ideal time to come and see the wildflowers. I'd also encourage anyone who is interested in learning more about planning options for green burial to reach out by phone. You can be in touch with me via our website, kokosingnaturepreserve.org, and I am happy to speak with you, family members, friends about purchasing interment rights at Kokosing Nature Preserve, and also always willing to schedule a walk and talk out at the preserve if that's what you're interested in doing. So it is now my pleasure to introduce Noel Jordan, who is the manager of Kenyon's Brown Family Environmental Center.
Thanks, Amy. The property really is beautiful. We affectionately refer to it as the KNP. All right, so let me pull up my slideshow for you. Everyone, what I would like to do this evening is to give you an abridged version of our story for the past 25 years. We celebrated 25 years last year in 2020. And I have some pictures to share with you to try to show the transformation that can occur on a property when people with a vision take thoughtful action. So in the 1980s, there was a farm at the bottom of the hill, the Maxwell Farm. It was this farm that Kenyon purchased, and in 1995 established the Kenyon Center for Environmental Study. And the original vision was to create an outdoor laboratory for Kenyon students, as well as a resource for education and recreation for the greater Knox County community. The mission that was established back then holds true for us still today. First and foremost, to support academics at Kenyon. We are part of the academic division, and so that comes first. But we also wish to engage the community, to connect people to the natural world, and to conserve the diversity on the 500 acres that we now manage. So in 2 words, education and conservation are our focuses. And so the work of transforming a farm into an environmental center was tackled with gusto the first couple of years. This is a back view of that original farmhouse, and one of their first projects was to turn it into a butterfly garden. Today, it is a certified wildlife garden, and we get a lot of visitors, both animal and human. There were cornfields also adjacent to the original farmhouse that you see in the background there, and they were turned into native Ohio prairies. We now have about 15 acres of prairie on the property. And then 4 years later, in 1999, things changed. We were given a gift, a very generous gift in the memory of Robert Bowen Brown and his family, and that changed the name from the Kenyon Center for Environmental Study into the Brown Family Environmental Center. Other gifts that we received that year funded a new office building. And so here are some folks at the groundbreaking for what we now call the Resource Center. And this is sort of the hub, I guess, if you will, is where our offices are. And also a modest science lab and classroom for Kenyon students. After that, many changes were made at lightning speed. The original farm on the property was relocated, refurbished, and you can see there they're in the process of building an aviary which has been used for bird research by many Kenyon classes. The iconic Cobb Shed was constructed to demonstrate traditional green building practices. Cobb is a mixture of mud and straw and has great insulation properties. And that today stands right next to our beautiful garden. Many, many trails were blazed. We now have 9 miles of trails on the 500 acres, and structures like that little footbridge there were built both to make the trails more accessible and to protect the fragile ecosystems. Over 16,000 trees have been planted in our first 25 years. That's one of our post-baccalaureate fellows, Mia Fox, with way too many trees going in the ground. The magical pine plantation that was actually planted before the BFEC was established has grown to maturity and is one of the favorite spots of Kenyon students and our local community guests. More recently, a labyrinth was designed and mowed in and is now a popular feature on the property. And we continue to make improvements on the trails. We were able to build a boardwalk last year in one of the muddier trail sections. So I'm going to pause for just a moment and take a deep breath before I go on, because I've just been glossing over a lot of the efforts that have been made on the property. I haven't even talked about any of our education efforts and the programming that actively connects people of all ages to the natural world. So going back in time to 1996, that's when our elementary field trips were started. And this program was and still is our cornerstone outreach program into the community. After that, layers of public programming were added, educational hikes for local families, trail races for a while during the 10 years that Dave Heithouse was one of the co-directors of the BFEC. They did a lot of races, getting people outside and getting healthy, and free events that have grown to serve thousands of people. This photograph was taken at our 2019 Fall Harvest Festival. We had over 2,100 guests come out to see us in the 4 hours that we were celebrating that day. And these are Kenyon students with their families. We offered this event during Family Weekend. A lot of Kenyon staff, faculty with their families, and a lot of those elementary kids bringing mom and dad to show them where they've been on field trips. So it's a great melding opportunity for Kenyon and the greater community. And then, of course, parallel to all of these public efforts is our academic mission. We regularly see classes at the BFEC, everything from anthropology, they're making spears there, a little too enthusiastic about that, art, science, and writing, and everything in between. So what's next? Here we are at the beginning of our 26th year, and we have a lot of ideas. There are a lot of things we want to do, small and large. We are currently in the process of creating a nature play trail for local families. A little larger project that is on our wish list are developing some ADA accessible trails so that we can get folks onto the property who have mobility concerns. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could provide our Kenyon students with a state-of-the-art laboratory, maybe in a new building at some point? So we have a lot of ideas, a lot of plans, but what will support all of them is the remaining true to our mission, both the BFEC mission and the vision of Kenyon to preserve that beautiful rural mosaic landscape around Kenyon. So to conclude, I want to invite you all out. I would love to give each of you the VIP tour at the BFEC, and absolutely would love to thank all of our donors, people who donate their time and sweat, and people who donate financially. So much of what we have done in these past 25 years could not have been done without our donors and volunteers. So thank you very much. I know we're going to have a Q&A session later on, but if anyone wants to reach out to talk one-on-one, I would love to hear from you. And with that, I am going to turn things over to Ryan Hoddle. If I can stop sharing here, there you go. Ryan Hoddle, the manager of the farm.
Okay. Pulling up the screen now. Hopefully you all can see this. So I wanted to talk to you today, this evening, about the Kenyon Farm. We have about a 10.5 acre farm that's literally just down the hill from Kenyon campus. Some students complain about the distance, but it really is only a 5 to 10 minute walk. We have raised everything from goats and chickens and bees and turkeys and cut flowers and worms, sheep, small fruit, you name it at the farm. And it's really amazing because it is really a farm that's managed and run by students. So they get this really incredible, unique experience to be on a piece of land, to work a piece of land, to get to know what the landscape means and how to interact with it productively. And it's a really amazing opportunity for students to really engage in. I think we're one of the only small liberal arts colleges in the country that has such a sizable farm so close to campus. So it's really an awesome job to be able to manage this place. But again, it all comes back to our students. We engage with the student base in a number of ways. One, as I said, is students actually living at the farmhouse and working there. So students are responsible for all the day-to-day activities, from waking up and slinging feed to the goats and the chickens, and washing out their waterers, and harvesting greens, as we're doing in this picture right here, and spinning them, getting them ready for market, speaking with the people that we're delivering to, procuring orders, taking payments, the whole gambit of stuff that goes into growing and selling food. So it's a really amazing experience for our students. We have the folks that work and get paid and live there. We also have students that work at the farm and live on campus. And then actually a lot of our help actually comes from students coming down, and we have 3 volunteer sessions every single week. And we just have students come down, a lot of them first time, they get interested, they start coming back, and before you know it, they're hooked. So they get to live, like I said, just minutes away from campus in a really quite beautiful farmhouse. And it provides them with a lot of really unique opportunity to engage with the landscape in a way that they might not otherwise get to enjoy if they were just on campus their whole semester. So in my class, I like to bring up the fact that, food is kind of a common denominator amongst all people, and it relates to so many different things. We all need it, and it draws in science and political studies and study of people and all sorts of things. And I say, the food system is very complex, and it requires looking at things in totally different ways and thinking about new ideas from new places. So I say, if you think this diagram is complex, actually there's some more even complex diagrams about food systems and all their complexities and stuff. So we get to go over that in some of our environmental science classes that are taught there at the farm, both the sustainable ag and permaculture Classes are taught there in large part, and we also have students come out on field trips regularly, and have professors sometimes just use the farm for a dance class or for an art installation location. But really, what is neat is being able to tie the academic with kind of more of kind of the practical hands-on stuff that gets done at the farm, which ends up involving not just the students, but the community of people that are around them. So that's a really unique opportunity for students to engage in something real and meaningful, and they get a tangible experience from it, and they get to serve their communities in different ways that they might not have expected. We've started working with local food bank this year, especially in light of COVID and a lot of layoffs in Knox area and around the country, really. But we've been able to provide hundreds and hundreds of pounds of food to them over the course of the last 6 months or so. And we plan to keep on doing that. And that's something the students have really dictated and said, this is important to us. We want to do this. And we've been able to work with them to figure out how to make it possible. So I want to go ahead and launch into a really short video because I think it captures a lot of what kind of experiences the students have when they engage in agriculture. This is a video that was actually produced by the Center for Engagement, and it really looks at community engagement, and it really kind of links together how working at a neighboring farm, Christie Lehman's in this case, can have kind of a eye-opening experience for our students, and to really integrate that into our curriculum in our educational research focus at the college. So let me go ahead and try to play this. I hope it all works.
This course has actually been taught for almost 17 years, and historically we've worked with farmers throughout the Knox County area, and we've worked on a number of farms. This is the first year that we've worked with Christie's farm, and it's proven to be a really great partnership for both of us.
Ryan and I have met multiple times over the course of the year before we had this class, discussing agriculture and the community and ways that the college could work with our farm. And so going into the year, we were careful to be on the same page on text and how the class would operate. I think it's really important that Kenyon continue this program with bringing students to local farms. There is something about being there with your hands in the dirt, talking with people who live this every day that you cannot learn in a classroom and you cannot find out by reading a textbook.
I think working here gives us a much better understanding of, the ins and outs of a farm. The kind of, in the textbook, it's all theoretical, but then, people living on a farm actually have to sustain for them and their family. So seeing Christie make those decisions and work on the farm, knowing that it affects their family and the ability for the farm to survive is really interesting, because you can't always make the environmentally sound choice without thinking about the money or the farm first.
Prior coming to the farm, I was thinking I wanted to do more like environmental policy or like food policy, and I guess since coming here, it's kind of in the same vein, but this is just way more hands-on, and I think that it would be almost easier to make an impact doing it myself rather than trying to make things happen from further away.
Well, I think the students' perspective on growing food just changes tremendously over the course of the semester. They're learning from an academic perspective, but then they're also getting that hands-on community engagement piece. And you can see their brains ticking in different ways by the time the semester ends. In the sustainable agriculture class that I teach, we talk about all sorts of things ranging from global food security, water, population, to kind of the nuts and bolts of how to run a farm.
As a Kenyon alum, this has been a great experience because while I was at Kenyon, I was a synoptic major in American Rural Studies and specifically spent my time studying rural communities and how the farm crisis had affected them in Knox County. Having the students here is almost like a culmination of all those years and interests that I've had with farming and with education. I love having the students here and seeing them continually engage with both the local community and farming as an actual practice and not just a theory.
I think like now, especially in the United States, there's a lot of like a disconnect from like the actual earth itself in agriculture. This class has like kind of made me want to start my own small scale farm, which is never something that I would have imagined that I would want to do. But like it just, like being able to do something so hands-on and active just seems like really appealing to me and definitely very rewarding.
Before this year, I wasn't sure what my major was. I was thinking about environmental studies, but I hadn't made that decision yet. And now I've declared that as my major. And I think that this farm and this experience has had a lot to do, has shaped that decision, because I now know that I want to do something outside with animals maybe after school. So I think this experience, this class, working on this farm has helped me figure out what I want to do with my life after Kenyon.
We do, a decent amount of classroom learning. There's a lecture component to the class, but really getting out there into the world and working with people in the community, learning how they work and how they live is just an incredible experience.
I think that it's also very important for them, although they haven't experienced to work on the Kenyon farm, to come out and see where we're transitioning from conventional agriculture to regenerative and organic practices. Just what that means, the good and the bad and the ugly about it.
Some of our key learning goals are around getting a better grasp for what sustainable agriculture means, how it's done in a very real and practical sense.
One day we came in and the tractor was all jammed up because all the weeds that are growing because they're trying to not use pesticides. So that's one thing that we can see in real time. When we talk about shifting to organic practices, it makes the job of the farmer a lot harder. So that's something that we've seen firsthand.
Not only have the students benefited from coming here and working with us, but we've also had 2 specific instances where the students have brought us solutions and helped us with issues we were having. First off, one student started putting in the works a whole program at the college to bring food waste to our compost pile. And so we're looking forward to seeing that program develop. And another student was helping us deal with some issues in the garden. We were looking for a source for cardboard to start making some pathways. And she came up with a great idea of working with the dining hall and bringing the pizza boxes that they can't recycle out here. So we've really benefited in some ways from their ideas.
It's kind of like a art major never picking up a paintbrush or a music major never picking up an instrument. If you don't get out into the field and work with natural systems, with agricultural systems, you're not going to know what they are like in a real practical and real world sense. As well as getting to know the Knox County community better, working with local farmers to see what the reality is of growing food and trying to make a living from working in agriculture.
All right, so thank you for bearing through that with me. Oops, I still want to share screen. Hopefully make this work. Sorry about that. So yeah, it's a great experience for the students, and one of the most incredible things is actually getting emails back from students that have been at the program with us and saying either I need a reference, or hey, look, I just got this new job. I think we've probably had over half a dozen students that have gone on to do something that's related to food. Some of them are volunteering on organic farms. We've had one student who is now in vet school. We've had students do international development related to agriculture. It's just really incredible what happens when you give the students some hands-on experience, some interest, some passion that they might discover at the farm. So it's really all about the students and having them interact with these natural systems. For instance, in this above shot here, we're harvesting barley, but at one point they actually had to plant it, and they had to, actually you don't have to weed barley too much, but they had to cultivate it and harvest it. So being able to see that whole life cycle is really what it's all about, and being able to interact with these natural systems. Here were some of our garlic and pumpkins from last year. And recently we've really tried to shift into creating kind of a more welcoming and more professional kind of space where people can feel comfortable, classes can come, students can interact, volunteers can come, and getting the infrastructure down, getting some of our retail space together. Recently, we had the good fortune of being able to construct a couple of the high tunnels, the picture that you see in the middle here, which allows us to extend production both earlier into the season and later. And so gifts like that have really helped expand the farm programming and create more opportunities for students, which is really what we're all about, is providing students with the best experiences that they can have here at Kenyon. So thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Lisa, Amy, and Noel. Really appreciate you articulating all the great work you're doing. So we have a few questions that have come in here, and this is going to be the speed dating equivalent of question asking. I'm going to try to spread it between the centers as best I can. So Noel, really quick, BFEC, will there be volunteer opportunities this spring?
Absolutely. We always have volunteer opportunities. We like to, we can socially distance and put tools in people's hands and spread them out on the property, doing all kinds of great things. So yes, please come volunteer.
Great, thanks. Would any of you like to speak to the interactions between the different organizations that are presenting tonight? And I'd throw my modest fifth piece into there for campus sustainability. Speaking to collaborative programming, the way that we compete for student attention, would anybody like to speak to that?
I'd be glad to start, Dave. I think one of the great joys for all of us, we are all very close colleagues. So it's really not a matter of competition. I think we know each other so well, or in touch so well, that we each do different things. So it's really trying to help match, be it a student or a community member or an alum, match them to what is their passion. And that would be true for fundraising as well. It's, from volunteers to student interest. So, I mean, do you all agree? I think that's one of the fun things about working here is it's collaborative. We do see each other all the time. It's been more on Zoom of late, but that's one of the great things about Kenyon.
Yeah, I agree with Lisa that rather than looking at these, and not that we haven't struggled with it in the past, but as these siloed organizations, we're all part of one continuous commitment that the college has made to rural character, natural character, and the curricular connections that go along with it. So I think, if I were to speak to our aspirational goal, it would be that we would all together present ourselves as sort of a clearinghouse for high impact experiential learning as it relates to the part of the world that we inhabit. Doug McLaren, I can see your question here, and we will answer that one. Preservation efforts. So balancing preservation efforts with available and affordable housing. Is that an issue, Lisa, that has come up?
Yeah, that's a great question. Definitely. I mean, Gambier is a small area, so that's where the partnerships come in. You know, we have talked to the village. Todd Burson, who's in the accounting office, the VP there. That is something, especially as we're looking at our next 10 years, because we have been fortunately so successful, now is when it really comes to bear. I mean, there is plenty of land still for housing, but I think it is balance was the key word. We are trying to find that balance, and that's all about partnerships.
This is one for anybody. Does the college perceive increased interest in applying to become a student here based on the programs that you are all responsible for?
I can't answer definitively, but we have a lot of prospective students that come and visit the farm, and it's definitely, I think, a draw when people find out about that and the BFEC and all this beautiful surrounding. I think they get captivated with the place, and it's one of our greatest advantages is all this beautiful natural surrounding that we have here.
Yeah, I agree. Just anecdotally, the interest that students have in the different green centers, the climate action planning that we're working on is increasingly important. I see that as a trend that's not going to reverse itself in any of our lifetimes. So yes, I think that, you know, all of these centers do help with recruitment. Here's one that I'll get at. How's the quest to get Kenyon carbon neutral? How's that going? Is the Board of Trustees going to divest from fossil fuels? Without getting into the nuts and bolts, Kenyon actually doesn't have a whole lot invested in fossil fuels. I mean, what we would divest from wouldn't really amount to much. But yes, in fact, as part of the strategic planning process, one of the values within the new mission statement that we've articulated is investment. Together with academics and faculty affairs, campus culture, and stewardship of the natural and built environment. So yes, investment, divestment, reinvestment, however you want to spin it, is something that is way up towards the top of the list of things that the college is considering in their broader strategic planning. Lisa, you might, and Amy might know more than I do about this one. Relationship with local legislative bodies. I mean, are you aware, do we have much of a relationship with local legislative bodies? I mean, the Village of Gambier, obviously, we're very close
I was going to say
with.
that really, in terms of what we have done, has been largely, and Doug McLaurin's on here to talk about, you know, township trustee and such. We have not, I mean, we are two part-time people with a full-time administrative assistant. So really, we have been fortunate to be doing so much land conservation that if we were a larger staff, we would love to get into that. There's a lot of opportunities with that. And I think, again, for students, that would be an interesting, for those looking at policy and things, that would be a fun thing to get into. That will be in our future.
Great, thank you. So we are just.
Dave, if I could speak for the township, we've been very pleased by having your last two business, managers, the overall Kenyon business manager, to be at our township meeting every week and be an active, engaged partner. You know, the township is a creation of the college. In actuality, they own the entire township, hence the name. So we've been very pleased with that. And I think the thing that I'd noticed is a long time resident here, in the last 20 years, the initiatives that Kenyon has done have been more locally friendly. Farmers' attitudes have changed a great deal. The hicks out in the cornfields were just wondering about what's going on up there in the hill, until the family farm projects. Howard Sachs started that. And that changed a great deal of the view of the college, at least in the rural community that I know. So that has been a great effort. And I think somebody asked a question about bringing students attracted to Kenyon. Well, I think it's a safe place, and a lot of people in this time of crisis are looking for safe places. And you know, we have our dangers here and we have our problems here, but that is one of the things that I surveyed, you know, about when I talk to mainly about parents. I talk to parents and they have a feeling of this is a safe place. It's also an exotic place for a lot of the students that I see. A lot of the students who are from very suburban or very urban areas all over the country and all over the world, we're sort of exotic in the sense of it's a relatively intact rural community with a good balance of agriculture, industry, education, culture, and retail, though, is a little weak, but beyond that, it's a relatively intact community. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Doug. And for folks who are out there listening, Doug McLarnon, lifelong resident of Knox County, College Township trustee. He could be representing sort of the community angle of the green centers, is instrumental in the designation of the Kokosing Scenic River, and yeah, all around good dude. So thank you, Doug. All right, so we're just past the hour. There's one more that I want to get to because we, you know, I think this is relevant for some of the sort of broader sustainability issues on campus, if not directly the green centers. So examples of how the college incorporates environmental sustainability efforts into contracts for things like new construction or food and waste services, et cetera. Yes, this is something that Kenyon has done a pretty good job at for a long time. We have a remarkable local food procurement system that was pioneered by Howard Sachs, kind of going back to what Doug said with building relationships with local farms. There's a very, very long list of small producers that we have these long-term dynamic relationships with. In fact, that some of the other colleges in Central Ohio are looking to Kenyon right now to figure out how we managed to do what we did with local food. New construction, which is a theme now and forever, I fear. We do consistently now build to some version of a LEED standard. I think increasingly we're looking at other metrics relative to actual energy use beyond LEED, which is a much broader set of categories than just energy efficiency. But I know we're past the hour. I will shut up. We will save the entire chat here, and I have confidence that the appropriate presenter or me will get back to you guys with answers to your questions. I'm sorry that we ran out of time before we could get to them. And thank you again to Kim, Office of Alumni and Parent Engagement. Thank you to Lisa, Amy, Noel, and Ryan. And thank you to you for taking the time to join us this evening.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, bye.